Hello and welcome to the Golf One and Done weekly picks video brought to you by PoolGenius. My name is Stephen Andress, joined each and every week on this show by the lead analyst at PoolGenius, Jason Lisk. You can follow him on Twitter at Jason Lisk. If you find this video helpful, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, let us know in the comments who you're picking in your Golf One and Done pools every week. It is our goal to make this the best Golf One and Done video on YouTube. There's a lot of golf content out there every year, some for betting, some for just analyzing tournaments and fields and golf news, but I think this will be the best Golf One and Done specific video on the internet, not just sprinkling Golf One and Done into your betting takes and your DFS for golf, but a focus on strategy, popularity of players, and all the nuances that go into the product that Jason and his team have put together for the 2026 PGA Tour season. So in this episode, here's what we're going to talk about. The three most popular picks as projected by PoolGenius for Golf One and Done pools for the Sony Open. We're going to talk about the Sony Open course preview and the purse information, which is vital into making your Golf One and Done picks every single week. We'll reveal the PoolGenius data grid for Golf One and Done pools and the treasure trove of information that's in there for PoolGenius subscribers. And we'll finish the video with our top three contenders, our favorite long shot, and my conviction pick each and every week. Before we get to the three most popular picks, Jason, hello. Thank you for wearing the Hawaiian shirt, my friend. You are ready to go here, even though it's about 20 degrees outside of both of our doors right now in January.
Yeah, I had to bust out the Hawaiian shirt, aloha, as we head to the Sony Open over on Oahu to kick off our season. I even broke out. I've got a hat.
It is.
This is vintage from the 90s. This is my dad's. He wore when he played golf out there, and so nice little, I don't know, band. Not going to wear this the whole episode, but, you know, here we are. We're
Here's
in
what you and me need a hat like that,
Mahalo,
or we're
we
going
are
to
in the
burn
spirit. So we may talk about other golfers with hat game. I don't know. That none of them will wear this. You won't see this on the course, I promise you, this weekend. But you might see some other good hats out there. So keep an eye on that.
I love it, man. So since this is our first video we're doing for Golf One and Done this year, I want to tell people why they should listen to us. We thought Jason and me tag teaming would be a really good combination in terms of our experience when it comes to the golf betting and the golf pool world. For Jason, he's the lead analyst at PoolGenius. He's played in Golf One and Done pools for years. He knows all the nuances of it. He understands the strategy where it becomes not just about modeling, but some weeks figuring out who are the most popular, and some weeks understanding I can't use a guy this week because I'm not going to get enough money even if he wins because the purse isn't big enough. So Jason's going to bring all that experience to it. For me, I am a golf outright bettor. I have been doing it every year since golf was the first sport back from the pandemic. I've had extremely good success in terms of ROI with that. I've hit 5+ outrights every year since 2021, made enough money where I got audited by the IRS. Let's just put it that way. And I had to explain to them how golf betting money and revenue works. So I come with a lot of outright betting experience in golf, but have failed in Golf One and Done pools. So I think I can make a really good short list of who to consider in terms of guys who I think can win these tournaments every week. And I think if I now combine that with Jason and his one and done strategy, we have a really good team here to bring you into the 2026 PGA Tour season. So with that said, let's get into it, Jason. Let's talk about the three most popular picks for the Sony Open as projected by PoolGenius. And we begin with who you think is going to be the most popular pick this week. It's Captain America, Keegan Bradley, at 18-1, a T6 and a T2 in his past 2 years here at the Sony Open. Tell me why you think he will be the most popular.
Yeah, you know, it's looking over our data on like how people have picked, and so I'll say I'm not 100% confident in every pool you have he'll be number one. I do think if we looked across a cross section of pools, he's the most likely to appear up top in more of them than anybody else. It's going to be a spread out field, I think, the way this sets up. There's not going to be a super chalky. He might get 10 to 15%. And so why? I think he falls in that sweet spot on odds in these non-signature events. He's about plus 2,000. He's 1,800. What you see is like some of the bigger favorites aren't going to get picked because people are saving them for bigger events. Keegan's right on the edge of that, right? He did win the Travelers, but I don't know that people are like, oh, he's a must-save top 10 type golfer. I can use him now. He's been top 10 at this event 2 years in a row. He's an older golfer who you probably want to grab when he's on form, like if he looks like a good option. And so I think that those factors will play into why he, over, say, a Henley, who is at shorter odds, and also an option in signature events. I think people are a little more likely to save Henley. I think Henley will still be popular, but I would guess Bradley slightly there.
Some of you may be asking, why would you save a golfer in golf one and done pools? And I'll briefly mention it, but I'll also say Jason did a whole 40-minute golf one and done strategy video here on the PoolGenius channel. You should go and look out if you want to get more into the weeds of strategy, but it's very simple. You want to save the best golfers for the tournaments that have the most money. And we'll get into that with the Sony Open preview here, but let's just say that it's less than half than compared to the purse of a signature event and a major tournament here at the Sony Open. So that's why people will be saving some bigger names for bigger purse tournaments down the road. Second guy projected to be one of the 3 most popular picks at the Sony Open, as projected by PoolGenius, is the favorite, Russell Henley. He's 11-1. He's the 2013 Sony Open winner, and he's had 3 top 10s in his last 4 starts here. In the betting world, Jason, I can tell you a lot of us have bet Russell Henley at this tournament at much better odds than this and have, cried on Sunday back 9 meltdowns by Russell Henley. But from a golf one and done perspective, you'd be hard pressed to find another guy who's had as consistent of form on this course in particular in this field.
Yeah, I think with Russell, it comes down to this. Do you want to save him for a bigger event? Like last year, he would have cashed in a higher amount several times. Even though he won the Arnold Palmer.
Yep. That's $4 million.
Was he second at Travelers to Keegan? I know he had a couple other top finishes.
He played very well in signature events, and to your point, like finishing second in one of those signature events is worth more than finishing first at this Sony Open.
And finishing third's probably about the same.
Yeah.
And then if you don't hit the winner in these events, getting a top 5 to top 10 might be better than a third at here. And so that's how the math works. So really in these events, you're looking like I need this guy to win or at least be second and like to give me any amount of separation from the field early on. So that's the question with Henley. And it certainly is with all these golfers we're talking about. Do I want to save them or do I want to use them now? The argument I think to use him is he's going to be somewhat limited on the types of courses you want to pick him on. This is one of the shortest courses on tour, and as you talked about, he's played well there, and he's also at a point in his career, as we saw when he struggled at the Ryder Cup, which was a long course that he did not fit his game, is you probably want to use him at some of the shorter courses, and this fits the bill. And so if you don't use him now, you're probably like looking at like Travelers again or RBC Heritage, courses like that as fits, and probably less so the majors that are going to be at longer events and things like that.
I generally agree with you that you're not going to want to use Russell Henley on a long course. I think there is a tiny exception to that is if it's a long and very difficult course. Like if the rough is very long. That's how he won the Arnold Palmer. That's a long course, but the rough was so long that even the bombers couldn't overcome it. So being in the fairway was actually a premium in that game, and Russell Henley was very good with his long irons. So overall, though, I tend to agree with you, though, that this guy is a sharp iron player, and that's why he's done well here on a shorter course at the Sony Open, where, some of the big hitters are neutralized off the tee, where it doesn't matter as much as some of these longer courses like the Farmers or, the majors. So the third and final guy that we have projected as most popular for the Sony Open, JJ Spawn. He's 18-1, just like Keegan Bradley. the defending U.S. Open champion. He's played very well in the fall swing for a guy who won a major last year. You usually don't see him playing as much in the fall swing. He played very well, and he's got 2 top 11s in the past 3 years here at the Sony Open, including a top 3 last year where, I mean, it was really like a swing here or there. Nick Taylor won the Sony Open last year on a crazy chip in. So JJ Spawn was right there at the end. To me, this is a guy who modeled very well for me in this tournament. He is on my short list to be on my betting card this week. I'm trying to decide which guy at the top of the board I want to include on my betting card, Jason. But if he's going to be popular for one and done, and he's already as a major champion in all the signature events, it makes me a little more hesitant to want to use him here.
Yeah, in fact, we have him graded down because he ranks in our top 10, and he would be a guy we would be like, and maybe not everybody thinks this way, right? Like you talked about Spawn playing well here last year. He really started playing well, I think, at the end of the previous year. He finally struggled. I mean, he was a journeyman. He's in his mid-30s now. But starting about July, late June, I think maybe it was with the Rocket Mortgage or one of those tournaments, he had a good finish and finished better at the end of the 2024 season. Carried that into 25, did well here, and as we saw, it has continued for like 18 months. It's been building and continuing to the point he was on the Ryder Cup team, and you can make an argument he just should have started more. Like they should have used him more. Like he's found it. Like, so your question is, do I believe that he's found it to the point he really is one of the 10 best golfers to consider? Because he almost won the Tour Championship last year, lost on the playoff. He won the U.S. Open. He almost won the FedEx St. Jude, lost in a playoff. Like, this dude could have been, like, behind only Scotty in wins last year and tied with Rory. I mean, he was that close. And it's come out of nowhere. You know, like I said, but the guy can get hot with the putter. He can hit it. I mean, it's like he's put it together. And so for me, he's more of a save because I want to see if he's like, if we show up to March and he's still playing this well, and now I have almost 2 years worth of peaking, then I'm willing to ride him, right? There's been late career successes in the PGA Tour. Not every career looks the same. So I'm willing to, if people are willing to use him, I'm willing to save him.
And I think for a breakout guy last year, I do think it's sustainable. That's always the first question, right? Is there going to be a regression when most of his career has not looked like what it did last year? I do think his game is sustainable because the anchor in my modeling and my golf betting, since I got into this, and again, I've had a lot of success doing it, is iron play, is on approach. Putting can be high variance week to week. Driving the ball, distance is pretty consistent, but accuracy off the tee with driving the ball can not be as consistent as iron play. So if you anchor your modeling and put more weight on approach play and iron play, that's going to give you better results moving forward just from a big picture golf handicapping standpoint. And JJ Spawn, if you look at his numbers, is one of the best iron players on tour. Like Colin Morikawa at his peak level of iron play is what we're seeing from him. So I do think it's sustainable and makes him a guy you want to save more. Before we move on to the course preview, I just want to give one more piece of context when we're talking about popularity here, Jason, for golf one and done pools. And we'll see it in the data grid here in a minute. We'll pull that up after the course preview. But, when we're talking about these three guys, you told me before the show they're projecting around 8 to 14% popularity, which for any given tournament means that you're getting a pretty spread out amount of popularity here. There's not a majorly popular guy. Like over 20% for a golf tournament would be very popular chalk. And the other piece of context I want to give to that is if you look at the winner of a huge golf one and done pool last year, and credit to Jason for pulling this information in his one and done strategy video. The winner of the Rick Run Good 3,700 entry one and done pool last year hit 5 outrights. The popularity of those outright winners that he picked were 12%, 10%, 7%, 7%, and 1%. So if you have a guy that wins a tournament at 10 or 12%, don't be upset. Like that's fine. That's not chalk. That's not going to kill
Yeah.
you necessarily, right, Jason?
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about popularity like that early on in a one and done season. Like you said, if it's 20 to 25%, and we're like everybody's picking them, maybe at one of these type of events you want to completely stay off of them and not even consider them.
Yeah.
But unlike survivor pools, they're not eliminated. So it's just a matter of, can the pick you beat most of the other people, right? And so even if you're on a 10% pick, you're heads up against a bunch of other people. If you can score better than them, you're better than 90% of the pool. And you aren't eliminated if they play poorly. It's just one shot. So as that winner showed, and by the way, that winner hit 5 outrights, but none of them were in the events that had a prize purse for the winner under 3 million, right? And so that also goes to show you can win these big purses without hitting winners at events like the Sony Open. So manage your entire portfolio well. Like don't burn a guy who you think is going to win a major. I don't think there's anybody in this field that's an absolute must save. There will be, like when Scheffler shows up to the Phoenix Open and the American Express, do not use Scheffler, right? The guy can win 3 or 4 events for 4 million. You want to save him, Rory, probably Fleetwood after how he's played over the last year.
Right.
So there's not that many. If a guy's like, oh, I must have him for a major, or I think I get beat because 10% of the pool is going to have that dude and win 4 million, those are the guys you don't want to use. And so, yeah, think of it that way. But yeah, you can win these pools with 10%, 5% picks. What that tells you is good picks tend to get some popularity, but there's enough options. They spread out. Like there's very few cases where the guy who wins was picked by 0.1% of the pool. It can happen, but and then if that happens, that doesn't hurt you at all. Like the fact that you didn't pick them, but nobody else did, you're fine. And so, the picks that hurt you are when you don't pick a guy who has reasonable popularity and he wins, and he was a reasonable option.
And you know what? If you run into a couple high chalk picks, it's not the end of the world either. The guy that won this pool last year at Bryson DeChambeau in the PGA, like 23% popularity, some crazy high number, and he finished second, got a lot of money, and it didn't hurt him. So there's nuance to all this. It's not as it's not as high game theory for me in the way I play it, like I do for NFL Survivor. So just consider that. Okay, let's get into our Sony Open course preview here. Before we get into the data grid, just briefly talk about how this sets up the purse info here. This is a $9.1 million purse. As I previewed before, it's more than 50% less than the signature events and majors that are 20 million or more for the SIGs and the majors. So you may not want to use some guys who are going to be in the SIG events and majors. The purse, 1.6 million for first, 992,000 for second, 628,000 for third. We're at Waialae Country Club. It's been there forever. A lot of course history here. 7,044 yards is considered a short course. Anything under 7,200 yards is considered a short course on the PGA Tour. A par 70. The greens are Bermuda, really Bermuda throughout. Nick Taylor is the defending champion, the Canadian. And in terms of how much you want to weight course history here, according to Data Golf, Waialae Country Club is second to only Augusta National in terms of predictive course history. So keep that in mind. You may want a guy who's had success here in the past. And the last note, the weather. There's no rain in the forecast, but there is wind in the forecast for this tournament. 15 to 22 miles per hour sustained, probably some gusts higher than that. That's for the entire tournament pretty much, except for the Thursday AM tee times that might have a little bit of calmer wind. So you may want to also consider a possible early AM, late PM wave advantage here if they get the better of the wind early on Thursday. As we record here on Tuesday morning, we do not have tee times quite yet, but just wanted to note that because that is always a factor when you're handicapping golf. Jason, It is time.
Yep.
Let's pull up your beautiful, gorgeous, immaculate golf one and done data grid. And what I would love to do just to start out as the architect of this data grid is to briefly walk us through what is in this and each of these columns of information that you have for us each and every week for PoolGenius subscribers of the Golf One and Done product.
Yeah, so this is what you will see. If you subscribe to us, you get to set up an unlimited number of pools and an unlimited number of entries. Once you set your pool up, and by setup, I mean you're playing at a different site, could be Splash, could be Fantasy Golf Championships, wherever, and you set up, your pool with us to basically see information and track your picks through us and get pick advice. And so once you set it up, tell us how big the pool is, the prize structure, all that stuff, and how many entries you're playing. You'll have access to what we call the data grid on each entry. You'll be able to, once we get going, log your picks. Now, we haven't made a pick yet, so all golfers are available. They all show up. Once I log in that I am picking a player, and I can show that, like you can tell me right now, by the way, is there somebody you want to pick? I can go out and pick them, and we'll do that later in the show, maybe at the end, and I'll show how that works. But once you pick a player for that week, it'll actually put a big bold square around their name. So you're like, oh, I've indicated who I want to PoolGenius's tools. And then in future weeks, those players will be grayed out. And they won't appear as options. They'll appear on the grid, so you'll see they're in the tournament, but you won't have them as a graded option. You'll see that they're graded out, so you don't think about picking them on that entry. That could also come up in the future, because depending on who you picked, we're going to take that into account as we plan out your future. If you've used golfers with better rankings, more future value, we may give you picks going forward that save more future value. Whereas if you've saved it really well, we may be more aggressive in saying, oh yeah, go ahead and use this guy now, because you have plenty of golfers left, right? And so those things will change. And so in the future, you'll see different grades based on who you've used. Right now, this is pretty uniform because everybody has everybody available. So what we see on this grid, there are several things here. One is our popularity estimate. That is, we use dots there. The 3 dots represent about 8 to 14%. If you see 4 dots, that means we think they could be above 15% in popularity. The 2 dots are like the 4 to 7 range. Once you get down to 1 dot or 0 dots, that means we think they're under 1 to 3, or maybe even under 1. Those can come up later, right? That can matter. Like you may want to play like a super low owned golfer when you're trailing and need to come back in the second half of the season, and you want to be unique so that if your golfer hits, you shoot up the standings. Right now, it may not matter quite as much in January, but that will come up later in the year. We have our golfer ranks and our golfer ratings. Those are strokes gained. That's the last 150 rounds for golfers who are veteran enough to have played 150 qualifying rounds on the tour. They're weighted where the most recent rounds weight more than the 150th ago. And so it's a weighted, think of it as a weighted power ranking, kind of like an NFL power ranking. And so we put our, that may match the market in a lot of parts. It may not, but that's just our golfer rating. And then we have our betting odds. And we dejuice those and make it so the entire field adds to 100% and show you our implied win odds for that tournament. And then the last 2 things here are course history and recent form. And these are really cool. I want to show you this. Like you can sort by strokes gained in this tournament. Now, obviously, Matthew Pavone is number 1, but he's only played the event once, right? And if you click on that blue link, you can actually see each round each golfer has played that's in our data. So it's all here. It's a great organizing tool. If you can use whatever you think is important, and you can search for it, and you can find it quickly. Because trust me, if you try to go to the PGA website and find golfer histories and research all this, it's going to take you 30 minutes to do what you can do in 15 seconds here. And so you can search each golfer, strokes gained. You can search recent form. These are, because we're in January, these are some of the late fall events. We got the Hero. We've got some of the events in November. So you can see who finished where and what their strokes. Ben Griffin played really well in the fall. Hideki won the Hero, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see who's played well recently when they played in the late fall. If you think that's important, you can weight that. So anyway, that's all there. You can sort by that stuff. You can see place of finish. You can sort last year's tournament. There's your finishers. We have it here for you. And so all that's here on one organized data grid to help you make the most informed decision you want to make.
Okay, so what I want to do now is sort by your pick grade and kind of talk a little bit about the guys that you have pinpointed at the top of this list potentially for golf one and done picks for the Sony Open. And the other little piece of context I want to add here is what kind of golfers have won this tournament in the past. So I hit Nick Taylor last year. He was 110 to 1. A couple of years before that, I hit Siwoo Kim. He was 55 to 1. There was a Grayson Murray win here at triple digits. Hideki Matsuyama has won here. He was more of a favorite. He was, in that shorter than 30 to 1 range. But we've had all kinds of class of golfer win at this tournament. What I will say is that this year could potentially be a little different. The field is stronger than most Sony Opens for two reasons. Number one, the Century got canceled, the Tournament of Champions. So that got canceled. So more guys decided to show up to Maui here. The other reason is it's getting harder to get into the signature events. So playing more gives you more opportunities to level up. So, guys like JJ Spawn are already in all those events. He won a major last year, played very well. But maybe that second or third tier that's kind of on that bubble trying to make sure that they maintain that top 50 status are going to play more often. So we're getting more guys into this tournament than you would maybe expect. Like Jordan Spieth is showing up here. He's trying to get into these events. Colin Morikawa does not need to be here. He's here, but he had a kind of a rough year last year. So you're just getting more guys into events like this than you typically would for those two reasons. So let's start at the top, Jason. Colin Morikawa is interesting to me. I'll kind of share what I see in my modeling, and then you can kind of share what you see in terms of one and done strategy. So despite Morikawa really having a down year by his standards last year, did not play well at all. A couple times he got into contention. He just has not been able to get over the hump. Despite a lot of bad tournament finishes last year, for what I plugged in for the stats that I think matter most for this tournament, he still wound up fourth in my modeling over the past 50 rounds, which really surprised me considering how poor his form was for a lot of last year. And I think it's interesting that you have him as the top pick grade here for this, because if you look at signature events and majors, these courses, they're playing a lot of long courses, and he's not long off the tee. Now, he tends to do well in majors, and if it's a tough course, you'll see him often in a top 20 or a top 10. But winning those now on long courses where he has not added distance off the tee makes me even more willing to maybe burn him at a tournament like this where it's a short course and it best sets up for his game.
Yeah, so he shows up here. I mean, one of the big reasons he shows up top instead of, say, Hideki, for example, and we don't even see Russell Henley and JJ Spawn on this list. They're in our top 10. Morikawa's struggles last year actually lowered his overall ranking to the point we're like, we're kind of willing to use him. Now, you can decide that differently. Do you want to use Colin at a major, right? Here's what we don't know about Morikawa. Last year, he didn't play these type of events. Like, if you look at his schedule, he played nothing but signatures and majors. He played in the team event in Zurich, which most of our one and dones don't use. And he didn't. And he then showed up to the Rocket Mortgage and Scottish late in the year, late before the Open, probably because he was like not guaranteed to be in the top 50 because he wasn't playing as well. So he actually did show up to those events, but he hasn't tended to play the non-signature events. Well, if you're, what's he going to do this year? I don't know. Maybe he's decided I need to play more. Maybe I didn't play enough last year. Maybe I need to get sharper and play more and be more consistent. And because there was stretches where he'd go 3 weeks without playing, right, and then show up to the next signature event. And so either way, I think it's good for you. The debate here, and we talked about this: do I save a guy or not? Right? Do I think I'm going to use him in a major or a big signature event? You can make an argument. Morikawa's played well at the Memorial. He's played well at certain places. He's
two-time major champion.
But he also isn't in that must-save category because it's been 3 years since he's won any event, right? He's played well. The event he's played the best at probably the signature events has been the Century, which got canceled. So I don't think he's a must-save. You could say, like, if you told me, Jason, I think Morikawa was still a top 10 golfer by the end of the year and I want to save him, that's fine. You can do that. But I think he's in that category of you could also play him if you think he's a good pick.
Yeah, the debate for me is if he's going to play more, that makes me think a guy of his class is going to be in far better form when the tournaments become bigger. And even though I have distance concerns with him off the tee, like we talked about before, the Memorial, for example, is a course he's played well at. He's finished second there. A second at the Memorial is worth more than first place here. So that's what I need to figure out as well. Is it worth burning him here when even a second or a third place is better than a first at the Sony Open at some of these other events? So it's an interesting debate for sure. But let's move on to the second choice here, Jason. Keegan Bradley, who you do have as one of the three most popular picks, but still wound up as one of your top three in the pick grade here. Tell me how you kind of squared that a little bit.
Well, so the pick popularity isn't really influencing the pick grades at this point, right? It's
Because
almost
it's only a
entirely
3 instead of a 4. If it was a 4, you would say it's
well,
probably
at
isn't going
this
to be
point,
here.
no, that wouldn't impact the grades. I think we're presenting them side by side. So you could use that and
Okay.
say, oh, it's a 93 based on win odds and how strong we think this golfer is compared to everybody over the course of the season. And then if he's popular, do I want to fade him and go to a different similar grade? You can do that.
Okay.
Again, 10% is not like prohibitive for picking him. I think the question is, do you want to save him or not? Again, we have him, and that's probably accurate. He's a top 20 to 30 golfer, but not a clear must save, which is going to be the case with a lot of these guys. You're going to have to run hot. Picking winners is hard. Most of these guys will not win an event this year. Who do you want to have at these big events to give yourself a shot? And Keegan's in that boat, but not a must save either. So that's why he's there. And then the next guy's pretty interesting, I think, because he was the chalk last year and he missed the cut. And now I think people are off of him, but I think he's just as good a pick this year.
Okay. Corey Connors, the Canadian. This is kind of like narrative street for me, I will fully admit, but I really kind of like Canadians and these Asians in a President's Cup year. I know they never win the President's Cup, but that matters to these guys to get onto that team. It's a lot of fun for them. So I think you kind of see a natural leveling up for some of these best Canadians and Japanese and South Korean players in a President's Cup year. I think that's interesting. To your point with Corey Connors, just looking at the last 50 rounds, he modeled out very well for me for this Sony Open. Wound up third, one spot ahead of Colin Morikawa, behind only Hideki Matsuyama and Russell Henley over the last 50 rounds. And, as we get later into the season, I might look more at last 36 rounds, last 24 rounds. But for the first event of the season, I care about a big sample size and who traditionally will fit a course like this if they bring their A game. So, and Corey Connors, full disclosure, was one of the first guys I bet in the outright market this week at 40-1. So I thought probably a lot of the same things you've seen. His odds have shortened to 33-1 now, so there's been interest there on Corey Connors, but he's green across my board here, man. He is top 20 in several of the categories I care about over the last 50 rounds, including fairways gained. He's fourth in strokes gained on approach. He's fantastic with his iron play from 150 to 175 by proximity to the hole. And in these par fours, it's a par 70. There's not many scoring opportunities on par fives. There's only 2 of them. So Corey Connors is 10th and 6th in these par 4 scoring from 400 to 450 and 450 to 500. So the other thing I like in the context of this week's tournament, Jason, Corey Connors has always struggled to putt a little bit. That's been why you really haven't seen him win a major despite his immaculate ball striking. If the wind is up like this, Jason, and the wind is causing issues, that could only help Corey Connors if the scoring's down a little bit and it's not as much of a birdie race here. So it's an interesting pick for me for sure.
Well, as you can see, if you look in that strokes gained course history, he's at a 1.5, which is pretty good. I mean, that's solid, especially over a large sample size. So even with last year's miscut,
yeah.
Here, I'll pull up his events. I mean, look, he's played it consistently. He missed a cut last year, but he's been really good. How many rounds? Most of his rounds under par. In fact, look at that string of rounds under par since 2020. Basically, like last year, he had one bad round to start the tournament, and that cost him, and he missed the cut. So he's been pretty consistently good here.
He had 4 consecutive top 12s from 2019 to 2023 here, including a T3 in 2019.
Yeah, he's been good here. Strokes get like when you look at like who's played well, the 4 guys ahead of him have played here once in the last 4 years. He's played here all 4. And so they've got major low sample size, more noise around their data. So I think Corey Connors is definitely on the short list of guys you should consider in one and done pools. And what I will say as I resort our grades here, people, will ask us, why aren't you making a specific pick recommendation? There's not that much difference between Colin Morikawa, who we have graded as our highest one, and say the guys down here in the mid 80s. Like you're all getting about a 2 to 3% chance to win this tournament, right? By market odds. And so it's managing that, and there's not that much difference. So I would say look at the golfers and find who you like on this list. I will play several of them. I will play lots of entries, and I will kind of figure out how to balance my portfolio. But it's unlike a survivor pool where there's pretty clearly like a couple of the top options each week. You can make an argument for 10 guys every week, I think, in a one and done pool.
The other thing I'll say about Corey Connors is when I turned on filters for wind, whether it was moderate wind or severe wind for the rounds that he's played in those conditions, his ranking maintained for me. He remained in the top 10 across 50 rounds, 24 rounds. So wind has not really been an issue for Corey Connors here. So 100% on my short list for sure here. So Jason, now, I mean, you just talked about conviction and trying to make decisions when you're trying to parse these, and it is a golf tournament. It's high variance week to week. There's a reason the best player in the world, if he has a 5-win season out of 30 events, that's an amazing year for him. So, this really does in the end come down to conviction and trying to come up with who the guys we like. So I want to end each of these videos each week with our top 3 choices for one and done pools. Then we'll also give a long shot to consider, and then the conviction play as well at the end to go with these. So I'm going to let you have the tee here, man. 4, please. Now teeing off, Jason Lisk with your top 3.
Well, so let me first of all say I've seen your list, and I don't want to completely duplicate it in week 1.
Okay,
I love your list, and you'll talk about it. So I don't want to like just pick the same as you. So I am going to branch off, but I will endorse what you're about to say as well. Like they would be at the top of my list. One of them I will include. I'll take Aaron Rai.
Okay.
And I think I'll talk about there's some factors related to one and done as to why I'm also putting Rai here. Because he's up near the top on the odds board, but he doesn't have like insane future value, and I think that's also impacted. Rai just missed out on the top 50 last year. He played the St. Jude, but missed out on getting into the BMW. I think he was 53rd. Like he just missed. He didn't have his best year after like looking like a potential breakout candidate coming off of 2024 over the summer. But he is like 33rd in our golfer ranking. He's one of the highest ranked golfers who doesn't have top 50 status, which immediately tells me here's a guy who's not guaranteed to play those events, and I can use him now. Because if he plays well, he's going to play his way into them. Great. I picked him and he played well. And if he doesn't, he's not an option for those bigger events. So I'm not burning somebody who's automatically going to even be in consideration later in the year at any of those big money events if he doesn't play well. So I like Rai in that regard. By the way, you know who Rai is part of the Ion Next 10. This is for those that follow golf closely now and all the rules. The top 50 golfers get into every signature event. No matter how poorly they play, over the rest of the year, they're going to show up to every one. They'll be at the Travelers in June, no matter how poorly they play now.
Top 50 from last year's final.
Last year. So anybody that played the BMW, which you had to be top 50 to get into it, is in a signature event from now until the Travelers. There's a next group coming off the fall called the Ion Next 10. That basically also takes the fall points. And so the 10 best scorers who are already exempt are now in to the first 2, Pebble and Genesis, but they're not guaranteed after that. So yeah, this group had to play well in the fall, knows they're into the first 2, but knows they aren't into any other that they have to earn their way in. but they can use it as a launching point. Rye's part of that group. I'll go through some other golfers. You know who was part of that group last year entering Sony? Nick Taylor, Nico Echevarria. Like, I'm trying to think who else was. Ben Griffin was in that group, and we saw what kind of year he had. So looking at those next 10 guys can give you an indicator of who's peaking entering the year and who might be motivated that they need to play their way into these events, knowing that they have an in early in the year, but that it's not always going to be there. So they have to come off. They have to be sharp early, and they're ready to go. And so I like Rye as one of those options. Echevarria is another one who is again in the next 10. He just missed out. And you're going to mention one later, I think, in your long shot. So I'll save that. But those are guys to keep in mind. So I like Rye for that reason. He would be my first golfer. He grades down. He's in our top 10 in grades. But that's why if I'm saving a little more future value, I'm going down to Rye. I think my next pick is going to be, if I'm not using the guys you're about to use, I'm going to use Siwoo Kim.
Okay.
25th, inconsistent, but let's fire it. Siwoo might be on the live tour. I joke, but there's some smoke, and he's denied it, and he said he's playing here. But none of his statements have actually said I'm not going. He just said I'm playing the Sony. Well, we just saw them announce the Korean team with Benny Ann joining, and who else is going to be on that team? I don't think we've heard. So anyway, I'm using a golfer who I think is near the top of the odds board and may not be on the tour in June. Maybe that's 5%. I'm not here to start rumors, only to say there's enough smoke that I don't think C was an auto save for like the signature events, and I'm willing to use him now. Just throw a bone, right? He's up near the top of the odds board. He's won here before. Let's just fire him and see. And then my third will be, this is not based on any logic, but he is on our odds board. He's top 10. He's in our grades. I went with the hat earlier. He has a different type of hat. I believe it's a Kangol, right? Is that how you pronounce that?
I got to find the name of that hat, but go ahead. Yeah, Harry Hall, baby.
Harry Hall with the hat. I got to go with the hat game. My other Englishman. So I'm going with two Englishmen, Rye and Hall, at this event to play. You talked about wind. Who knows how to play in wind other than, dudes who grew up in England. So here we are.
It's a flat cap, apparently.
Okay.
Or as some of the English like to call it, a newsboy hat or a newsboy cap. So there you go. The one that Payne Stewart used to wear, Bryson wore it for a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, Harry Hall is that'll be the last time I try a British.
We'll have Harry on some entries for one and done for this week.
I like it. All right. So I like that we have some overlap. Appreciate you kind of spreading some names out there a little bit, but I do like that we have some conviction here together, that we're aligned a little bit. My issue with one and done has always been just picking the right guy, right? Like that's why if you may want to consider multiple entries to make it a little bit easier. But when I bet outrights, it is putting between 3.5 and 4 units on each tournament. And if any one of the guys I bet on wins, I get 30 units. So I'm spreading that 3.5 to 4 units among a list of guys to win. And again, if any one of them wins, I win 30 units. So that's been my system. That's why it's been hard for me to translate that to one and done, where I need to only pick one guy. So here's my top 3 for the Sony Open. This is very much based on the modeling I've done for this tournament. And 2 of these 3 guys I have already bet on. The third one is on my short list, just waiting on tee times and these wind conditions and figure it out. Corey Connors is the first. We've talked at length about him and why he's a good fit here. Aaron Rye is the second one that I'll consider. Jason just made a fantastic case for Aaron Rye. The third is Colin Morikawa. I am leaning more towards not using Colin Morikawa because if he is going to play as often as we think and he starts finding his game a little bit, then him cashing a second or a third at a signature event or a major is worth more than first place here. So that's kind of where I land on that. However, I will just note that even though Morikawa has skipped this event in recent years and played the Century instead, he has always shown up ready to go. Like some of these golfers are testing new equipment or going through swing changes. And a lot of that we don't know because they're not covered like NFL teams are covered with beat reporters. So what I am confident in is Morikawa is going to show up ready to play. The last 4 years at the Century, first event of the year, and those PGA Tour seasons, he's finished no worse than 5th at the Century. Different course, I understand that, but I would argue this course better suits his game than Kapalua, which is a very long, sprawling course that helps bombers. So the fact that he's finished the 2 top 5s and 2 runner-ups right out of the gates at a course that doesn't suit him as well as this one, that's the hardest decision I think in one and done this week, Jason. So it's just a matter of whether you want to save him.
And I like Morikawa. He's our highest graded golfer, as we saw. And so this is an argument to play multiple entries and play in different contests. I will have, double-digit entries. Maybe not by the end of this week, but as more pools open up over the next month, I will keep adding. I definitely will have close to that. And so I can put a Morikawa down while still having Morikawa on 8 others, right? And so that's probably how I'll play it, is I'll play a little bit of Morikawa, because not only do you say, well, he might hit a second or third, but you have to pick him in that event he hit second or third. And it also doesn't burn you as bad if only like 2% picked him. Like if he's not going to be super popular at signature events, if he's not going to be like easy to pick, I don't, and that's why I say he's not an auto save. I think he's in consideration. You could save him. It's a reasonable position, or you could, I think, fire him as what you laid out. Start strong in Hawaii, has consistently done that. The type of course that fits his game. And if he's going to be a more limited, not in the top 10, but like a 10 to 20 to 30 guy, this might be his best cash. He's only cashed over $1 million, I think, 3 times in the last 3 years at events. I think it was Memorial, Arnold Palmer, and one other where he finished second. He hasn't won in over 3 years. And so that doesn't mean it can't happen this year, but he's not the auto save that Rory and guys like that are.
He's typically been a bad below average putter, but I will say on this surface, Bermuda, it has been one of his better surfaces. He actually is above average in this field in strokes gained putting on Bermuda. So again, another nugget in his favor in making this decision even harder if you're thinking about going Collin Morikawa or not. All right. My favorite long shot for the Sony Open, 2026 PGA Tour opener, is Max McGreevy. He's been bet down. You could get him as high as 140 to 1 last weekend. He's been bet all the way down to 90 to 1 now. Now, I will admit, this is a course history spot at the Sony Open. It matters according to Data Golf. This is the most predictive course history of any course on the PGA Tour other than Augusta National and the Masters. McGreevy doesn't have any course history here, so that's tough to swallow. What he does have going for him is that he played very well during the fall swing. He finished second and tied for third in November at the RSM and the Bermuda. A couple of courses that are pretty wind exposed, and the wind is up here at Waialae Country Club this week at the Sony Open. So when I modeled him out, as is the case with many long shots, he didn't rank very well. But when I filtered for windy rounds, windy conditions, Max McGreevy shot up my rankings to 7th overall for me when I did that over the last 24 rounds with either moderate or severe wind for the stats that I care about most for the shorter course at Waialae Country Club in the Sony Open. And in that windy round sample, Max McGreevy ranked out top 20 for me in fairways gained, strokes gained on approach, par 4 scoring on holes 400 to 450 yards long, and birdies or better gained. I think that's why some people have bet him as well with me, and he's been bet all the way down to 90 to 1. But if you're just looking for a flyer, take a long shot potentially in one and dones, or if you just want to bet somebody outright at a big number, I think you could do worse than Max McGreevy. Jason, do you have a long shot or any other thoughts on my long shot here?
No, well, I said you would have. You remember what I said about the next 10 guys, and how last year we had 2 reach what? McGreevy's one of them. You talked about his hot fall.
Put it on the board,
and so he's in that next 10. He's qualified for Pebble and Genesis, but guaranteed nothing else. And so we know he's playing well, as you mentioned. And we saw last year that recent form of guys who were not qualified but played their way in to the top 10, the next 10, did well here. And so, hey, I like it. I like it as a long shot. Obviously, in a one and done pool, but you know what? This is a type of pick that's not going to burn you either way. So I think it's fine if you want to throw a long shot pick at the Sony Open to start your year. It's probably not going to make or break your one and done season. And if he doesn't play well, guess what? You're not thinking about Max McGreevy in a lot of their spots, right? And so I think that's one. Now, where would I go? Maybe not quite as long. I don't know how we're going to define long shots here. You give me a number.
75 to 1 or longer.
Okay. I'm looking at our odds board at 75 to 1 or longer. I'm going to go. I know you say that course history matters, and they've said that, but just based on score, I don't know that. I tried to find that, and I didn't find that as much. Once I controlled for golfer quality going into the game, and kind of looked at what I call residuals, like how did they do in strokes gained versus the expectation entering the tournament. I found that the correlation was pretty low in recent tournaments at the Sony. You've had guys that have played.
Hey man, I will listen to you over anybody else, including
no, I think the data golf guys are probably right. So here's the difference. If you're just looking at rounds and results versus like how they did it, like the types of golfers that things are sticky. There's a lot of noise at Sony because you can have guys go low that maybe don't fit the profile and bounce around from year to year. And so I'm going to be willing to play against like maybe recent form if I'm going a long shot, like a super long shot. I'm going to go down. I've got two in mind. One is Vince Waialae, who has played here 2 times in a row in 3 of the last 4 years. He had a 17th 4 years ago, but he's not played well the last 2 times. He's played a little better in the fall, and I think he's a guy I'm willing to play at long shot. The other would be Sahith. The fact that injuries dragged his last year down so much. And we heard Rick Rungood talk about how he's one of his sleepers to bounce back because, he had that early injury and he played poor. He was in our top 30 last year at this time. And he was on the odds board in the top 15 or 20 at this event. And now he's way down there. So if it really was injuries and he's taken some time off, he's a guy that maybe you want to jump on that you think is undervalued.
All right. I like it. Time to wrap up our first one and done video of the season with conviction plays. I'm going to consider this basically ignoring popularity for one and done. Just one guy I have to pick to win this tournament, to potentially use in one and dones and to bet on as well to get an outright ticket. I have bet this guy. He is on my short list for one and done. Jason has already talked about him at length. It is windy. I like Euros when it's windy. It's Aaron Rai, Mr. Two Gloves at 35 to 1. Now, he was at 40 to 1 earlier in the week. There's been some interest in him to bet him down to 35 to 1. He modeled well when I turned on windy conditions, as you would expect from an Englishman. Over the last 50 rounds, he ranked 7th for me. But what I like about that ranking even more is that when you're doing these modeling services that are out there, Jason, they only take into account PGA Tour rounds for the most part. It's very rare to find any that will include DP World Tour events or international events. So he's modeling as 7th for me for the stats I care about most for the Sony Open over the last 50 events, last 50 rounds, without taking into consideration whatsoever what he's done in the fall swing overseas against very strong fields. In kind of the race to Dubai schedule for the DP World Tour after the PGA Tour Championship, he went out, finished T3 at the BMW PGA Championship in a field that included guys like Matt Fitzpatrick and Victor Hovland and Tyrrell Hatton. Alex Noren wound up winning that event. The next week, he went to Abu Dhabi, another field that included Tommy Fleetwood, Nikolai Højgaard, Rory McIlroy. He won that event. He outdueled Tommy Fleetwood in a playoff. He beat Rory McIlroy by a stroke. He's playing phenomenal golf right now over the fall swing. Gets to start his season on the PGA Tour on a course that is tailor fit for him. And I think he's a little under the radar for the other people like me who use modeling that don't have those international rounds from the fall swing included in their projections for him.
Yeah, so I will say we do have those rounds will be included in his power rating for us, but they
That's
won't show.
fantastic.
But they won't. Then that's why he's up to 33rd. And that's why he's the highest rated golfer who is not top 50 eligible on our list in this tournament. He's basically the top guy who is not guaranteed to be in the signature events. Now it's not showing up in our recent form because those are PGA events with specific standings for the fall events on the PGA Tour. And so that's why you're not seeing there, but it is in the last 150 because we do take DP. We have rankings for guys like Penge and Wrighton and all those guys off their DP World Tour results. And so, yes, we do have that. And that's why Rye is up there. And so he would be my pick too. I don't want to like,
I love it, man. I mean, what could possibly go wrong in a field of 140 when we have the same guy,
with a guy with a 2 to 3% chance of winning, right? Like we're probably going to be wrong, but he's the guy that I will probably have on tied for the most one and done picks for this week as I lay out my portfolio. Now that may be 20 to 30% of them, but he's going to be the guy I'm going to double up on probably early on. And so here's what I would say. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. We're going to bring you this content every week. It may not be quite as long, but we're going to talk through these tournaments and strategy and golfers to pick. If you are interested in our tools, we do have a free trial, a 4-day free trial, which basically we set it up that way so you can use it for one event, test it out, see what you think, go in and actually do the things I did, play around with the tools. And so you can do that. No credit card required. Just sign up with your email for a free trial and you can get access for basically, if you sign up on a Sunday night, you'll have it till the start of the tournament, Sunday night, Monday next week. Or if you sign up this week, you'll have this week's tournament. So use that free trial and check us out. And thank you so much. Any final thoughts from you, Stephen?
Just that I want to be transparent with everybody. Golf content on YouTube is hit or miss for a lot of people that put this stuff together. And this is an experiment for us at PoolGenius. I just had a blast doing this video with Jason. I feel like we gave you guys a treasure trove of information. So this is a trial run for us, though. Right now, we're going to take this up through the first part of the season, the first couple of months. We're not sure if we're going to continue it past the Masters. So if you want it to continue beyond the Masters, we need your help in doing that. So we need you to hit the like button. We need you to hit the subscribe button. Share it with your buddies. That helps as well. If you have a social media channel on Twitter, you can post it there. Literally anything you can do to help us kind of signal to the YouTube algorithm that this is a information-rich piece of content that people should watch will go a long way for us. So thank you for watching it. It's been an hour-long episode. We think the future episodes will be a little shorter, but we wanted to introduce a lot of the nuances and what to expect this year in our one-and-done series for golf videos. And as I say at the end of every NFL Survivor video, Jason, best of luck in your golf one-and-done pools.
All it takes is 1 week, baby, and one and done. Hit that winner.
That's right. We're going to hit some outrights. I can promise you that. Best of luck, everybody.